Hello there, welcome. So I'm doing a black and white week, different background, black background. The reason is later on in the week I'm doing some film wars, but also the earlier part of the week, the film I'm talking about, first part of the week. So it's more appropriate for, so I'm just going to go with this look for this week. Then we're back to normal next week, so enjoy the different look for a week. So the first film I'm going to talk about is The Sorrow and the Pity. Now this is from Marcel Ophuls, and it was made in 1969. It was made for television and was banned in France. It was a French production for television, 4.5 hours long, and it was banned from going on television, essentially because it showed the reality of the French occupation. Now, the romantic view of the French occupation by the Germans in World War II is that the Germans occupied the country. They were cruel beasts, they were horrible, and the resistance fought on, and all that. That was a romantic view, but it wasn't quite the realistic view of what happened. And this film shows that unsentimentally what actually happened. What actually happened was collaboration, denouncements, people going to jail, other people who ignored the war entirely and just got on with their own lives. There was lots of power struggles and lots of collaboration, really. It was a much seedier, weirder thing going on. And this film showed the French nation to not be as noble and as romantic as they would want you to actually think. So it caused controversy and it got banned. It was so controversial that they wouldn't show it on TV because they were scared of the backlash and the outrage and all of that other stuff. They were just scared that it would cause havoc. Just by telling the truth of the matter was in this, it starts off, the film focuses on it was around the country. The main focus is one place called Clermont. Because they keep going back to that and they use Clermont as an example of what happened in villages and towns throughout the country. So you get a wide variety of people and you'd see everything that happened within that society. But they would always pull out and show other things happening. So you get an overview of what happened to start with, which was when the Germans started to attack, started to expand in the late 1930s. The British and the French had a deal. They neither would surrender without the permission of the other, and they would fight the Germans and all the rest of it. Turns out the French army wasn't as good as they'd like to believe, and they weren't as good as they'd like the world to believe. They were pretty incompetent and they messed up their defences. The Germans rolled over them really quickly. It was an embarrassment. I mean, it was one of those things. It wasn't just a mild embarrassment, it was a deep embarrassment, and nobody wants to talk about how bad their defences were. It's one of those things, it's like, this film sort of focuses on that for the first section, for the first half hour, 40 minutes, talking about how they messed up and then how they just embarrassed themselves. And then basically the Vichy government, which was had to be led by an old hero of World War I, Pétain. He created a deal with the Germans for occupation, and he would be the leader. He would ensure the French people would survive and move on. And there was a Prime Minister, or President Lava. So there was like two people in charge, both of whom didn't do well once the occupation ended. Lava got executed in Pétain because he was so old. He was like in his 80s when this happened, and he was pretty much senile at that point anyway, so he just was jailed for the rest of his life. But the film tells you this information, and it goes in, and at certain points it goes into the politics involved, and how love was a controversial figure. Some people, like his son-in-law, said he was misunderstood. He was trying to make France survive the war until the Allies defeated Germany. But other people thought he was much more sinister, and they showed that France, despite protestations of all the protections of Jews, they didn't. They got rid of anybody, any Jewish person who was undocumented or lost their citizenship, went straight to death camps. And it wasn't nice, and there was also a lot of anti-Semitism and anti-communism right through the country. There was some fascists who were behind the Germans, who wanted to feel the German way was the way, which embarrassed the French. So there was lots of issues affecting France that was uncomfortable. So he went against this whole idea of the brave French, or they did their best. They weren't collaborators, they were brave resistance fighters. Because there was real brave resistance fighters. It's just that they were not the majority. The majority just got on with their lives, let the war happen. There's lots of brothels created to help the German soldiers get laid, basically, since they were away from home. And of course, once the war was over, all those women who slept with the Germans, they had their heads shaved, they were called whores and they were sluts and all the rest of it. The resistance fighters themselves were shunned a lot of time and denounced and arrested and had to escape jail. People who objected to the Vichy government went around were called traitors, and some who were caught were arrested and thrown in jail, said they were called deserters, and they were offended by that because they felt that the Vichy government were the traitors, they were the ones who didn't have France's best interests in mind. There was a lot of problems with the English, Anglophobia at the time as well, because the British Army destroyed the French Navy, so the Germans couldn't use the boats to fight them. And Lava, the Prime Minister, came out against the British and very obviously saying was hoping the Germans would win. So it's no surprise he was executed at the end of the war. So there's all this stuff, all this things they don't want to talk about. There was people who just wouldn't get involved, and then we claim later on they did get involved. Then there was other ones who just acted as if nothing happened, say they never saw anybody, they never saw any Germans. Germans were barely there, even though it was proven that Germans were there in this town a lot. There were people with vaguely Jewish names who weren't Jewish, who had to put this guy had to put a pronouncement on the paper to tell everyone he wasn't a Jew. Yeah, that was what was going on. I mean, there was a lot of rife anti-Semitism. There was lots of horrible situations going there. A lot of the conventional rich people didn't get involved. A lot of people went into lose and not get involved. The resistance made out outcasts and weirdos and people who just couldn't take the Germans. So, and they were called terrorists, and even later after the war they were still viewed as terrorists by certain people within their community because they were the resistance, and some French did not like that. Yeah, so some of the French just rolled over. And one of the points the documentary was, even if it happened 20 years later with the current French population, it might happen again, because there was just something wrong with the French mentality. That was a big criticism of the programme, 5-hour programme, 4.5 hour programme. That was the problem, was the mentality of the French people. They didn't fight properly to defend their homes, they didn't really want a war, and then when they were occupied, a lot of them just rolled over and used it to nail enemies and go against enemies. A lot of them were pre-trained supporters who just looked up to him because of his image from World War I and didn't look into what was actually happening now and all the horrific things were going on. Didn't bother them. Anti-Semitism, I said, was bad. The fear of communism meant that within the resistance, certain resistance people would not fight with the communists who were also fighting the Nazis. And they were supposed to be getting together, and the people, the Gaulle who was running the show from London, was telling me you have to fight with these communists now. We've got a common enemy, we'll deal with them later. But no, they wouldn't fight with the communists because they thought they were in league with Russia, and it was very difficult. And there was lots of traumas that would continue beyond the war, basically. Lots of things that were happening in France before the war were never really settled during the war, and it just became like friction between them. So you saw a lot of people in the resistance were getting caught, were going to jail, were getting shot. Some people survived by luck. It was, and the whole idea of the resistance was they knew they weren't going to win the war. All they had to do was disturb the Germans and slow them down and make it difficult for them to function, so that it would be easier when the Allies came to actually defeat them. And London was trying to help them with that, with weapons and intelligence, and sending people on the radio that would communicate from different cells so everyone could join and work with each other to make a more effective resistance. So there was lots of things like that going on. And you also talked to some of the Germans who were there, you know, and they were like soldiers. I mean, from the French point of view, anyone who was a German was a Nazi. And they viewed it was, if you weren't a Nazi, you were put in a concentration camp, and if you were in the army, you were a Nazi. Then you speak to the Germans, and some of them seem more tied to the Nazis than others. One older guy, was more or less a soldier, but he never really denounced the Nazis or anything. He was just a soldier still trying to work through the system. And there was other ones who were just trying to survive. And they had to have to deal with the French. And so some people hated them, some people tried to deal with them. And it was just this mess, this like forced mess that no one was really happy with. And the film just looks at all the scabs, all the things that no one wants to talk about with the resistance, or about the occupation, about what happened. It's a wonderful film. It's really terrific. It's sort of like Shoah, where everyone should see this film. This should be in schools. People should watch this film in schools. Just get an idea of what occupation is and what happens. Because it would help a lot for some of the mess around now in the Middle East, where the idea of occupation as if it's ever going to work. It's never going to work. It's a bad idea. If you go in and no one wants you there, it's never going to work. And this kind of shows you what all the things that happened in France, but it could just pass through any occupation. It's an occupation story, and it just shows the mess the whole thing is. So, Sorrow and Pity. I'm sorry, I was just checking to see how long I've been yapping for, because I thought I'd been yapping forever. Is wonderful. I don't want to go into a ton of details about it, mainly because it's something to, there's a lot, like Shoah, there's a lot of details I don't want to, it's like you don't want to spoil certain horrific details. Like, there's a lot of people talking to the camera, and the stories are very fascinating, but they let them talk, and it's how they tell the stories, like resistance people, people who were turned on after the war, all that stuff, all the details. There was lots of stories I haven't talked about because they're really interesting, but I think it's better to see for yourself. I'm just trying to give a general idea of it. You know, everything is always way more details than the telling, because it's 4.5 hours long, and there's a lot of details to tell. But it should really be shown in schools. This is a major historical document that made France very uncomfortable. Ophuls later did the Hotel Terminus, which was about another film about the Nazis, but a particular Nazi that I'll be covering soon. I don't want to go into any more details of that just now. But he's a major documentarian, and this is a stunning film. It's in the UK, right, in Britain, it's available through Arrow Academy. So if you haven't got it and you have access to either your region to Europe, or you have a multi-region player, I would definitely recommend buying the Our Academy version, because you get the full documentary, you get an hour discussion about the film that was shown as the film was shown in France eventually. There's another half-hour interview with Ophuls from the early part of the century. So it's a really good package, terrifically put together. There's a booklet as well. It's a wonderful package, and it's not that expensive, so you should be able to buy it without too much expense. It's definitely worth seeing. It's worth owning, but it's definitely worth, you have to sit down and watch it. It's split into 2 parts as well on the disc, so part 1, part 2, so it's easier to watch. You have to watch all 5 hours in one go. You can watch it part 1 and part 2. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that. I'll be back with another video tomorrow, and I'll see you then.